Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Means. We're going to be doing part 2 of my NFL Week 7 power rankings. Crazy to think we're already at mid-season, but I mean, here we are. We're going to go ahead and talk about this. This is going to be top 16 teams. So the first team that I'm going to be revealing is, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page, is going to be the 16th place team. So if you're looking for part 1, you should be able to click the info box if you want to know what the info box is. If you tap on the screen / click on it, at the top there should be a little eye, like a white eye or a black eye and a white circle. The letter I, you should be able to click on that, and part 1 should be in there, or the link should be popping up in the top of the video. Either way, you should go watch that first, or you could watch it after this one, or you could just watch that one, or you could just watch this one. I don't really care. You do whatever you want to do, but just know it is there if you want to go watch that. Let's go ahead and let's go get into this thing. We're going to go ahead and talk about it. We have the let's go ahead. So let me just go. In 16th, we have the Browns. Oh, disgusting. It was terrible. 38-7 loss to the Steelers. They somehow only dropped down one, mainly because of the team that was below them, the Texans. I honestly don't think they're worse than the Texans. They had one bad game, and by bad game I mean horrendous, terrible, disgusting, one of the worst games I've ever seen. But also Baker Mayfield played terribly. I mean, this might be the worst game Baker Mayfield has had this whole season. Surprisingly, it's not the Browns' worst loss. In Week 1, they lost 38-6. So in their 2 losses, they lost 38-6 and 38-7, which is just kind of crazy. I mean, their 2 losses have been insane blowouts, which I guess is good for Browns fans, because in my opinion, I would rather see my team get blown out than to have a close win, because in a close win, while yes, your team looks better and it gives you more hope for the future, it is like it sends you through an emotional roller coaster if they lose. It's like if they start coming back, you're like, yes, we got this, and you start getting really happy, and then they lose, and you start freaking out, and you have a heart attack. Meanwhile, if you get blown out, you're just like, oh yeah, we lost. All right, with the Browns, they are in 16th. They drop down 1. If they play anything, if next week, if they play even slightly like they played this week, again, they will plummet. they will fall. And in 15th, we have the Colts. They went out there, they got the win against the Bengals, and somehow they managed to drop down 4. I think a lot of that had to do with the way they played at the beginning of this game, and the fact, it probably has more to do with teams moving around them than anything. But right now, the Colts, they're in top 15. They are doing really good. Phillip Rivers kind of clicked this week. That defense didn't show up in the first half, but it did show up later in the game. They allowed, I think, 24 points in the first half and only 3 in the second half. So a little bit inconsistent there. But the Colts, they are 4-2. They're only second in their division. They have really good hopes for this season. And yeah, we'll see what they can do. And I think a lot of those moving down by 4 has, again, a lot to do with teams moving around them. Next up in 14th, we have the Cardinals. Don't really move that much. You probably expected them to launch up because of their win against the Cowboys, and the magnitude at which they beat them 38-10 was, it's insane. But we kind of didn't expect anything different. When your starting quarterback is injured and your main running back hasn't been playing too well this season, and you don't expect to do very well against one of the best teams in the league in the Cardinals. Well, not one of the best, but top 15. But the Cardinals, they get the win there. And they are still a really good team. And obviously, Kenyon Drake finally had a breakout game. It took him 5 weeks, but yeah, he finally managed to do it. He had a really great game, 2 touchdowns, I think 150 yards. We'll see if they can keep it up. Kyler Murray had an amazing game rushing and not really passing. It was a lot of big plays for the Cardinals, because Kyler Murray only had to complete 9 passes and he got 188 yards. Just shows you how many giant, big, 60-yard game plays they were having, especially in the air. One bad thing is that he had 9 completions for 24 incompletion. Well, he had 9 completions for 24 attempts, which is another one of the reasons they didn't move up, is because Kyler Murray, he had a really good game, especially rushing. I think he had 1 touchdown rushing, he had 2 passing touchdowns, 188 yards, and 15 incompletions, which is not very good. But yeah, he wasn't very accurate. In 13th, no interceptions though. We have the Patriots. Because when I did my power rankings last week, I had not yet realized that Cam Newton was cleared to play. So that is why they jump up by 10, despite the fact that Cam Newton, despite the fact that the Cam Newton didn't play very well. And if you look back when Cam Newton was actually on this team, like before this game, like back in week 4 or whatever, they were like top 10. So they get Cam Newton back, but they're not as good as they were because this game was really on Cam Newton and that offense. I don't think they had a really good game, especially, I mean, it all lies on Cam Newton. I think their one touchdown was actually only a rushing touchdown. It's not a very good game by the Patriots offense. Their defense did only allow 28 points to Drew Lock, and I mean that Broncos offense can be explosive at times. We saw that especially against the Jets. So a good job there by the Patriots defense. They're down from where they normally are with Cam Newton, but still they did manage to bump up 10 because they did get Cam Newton back. Next week they play at the 49ers, I believe, and with I mean, the 49ers, they definitely haven't been playing as good as they were, especially last year, but they are still a really good team. Moving on. Can we go to, well, so now you know, I think I'm right there. But we're going to put that back, and we're going to talk about the Chargers. Sorry, I clicked too many times. But the Chargers, they say I think they had a bye week this week, actually, so they can finally figure out what the heck was going on. 4 straight losses. I think all but one of those games, maybe all of them, yeah, all but the Panthers games where they had teams come back, and they had teams come back from deep, like far behind them. I think they were beating the Saints 20-3. I think they were beating the I think they were beating the Buccaneers 24-7 at one point. The Chargers, they keep on choking. They're gonna have to figure out what's going on, but they are still looking like a really, really good team. The only reason the Chargers would have moved would have been either someone gets injured in practice or you know, teams moving around them. So they stay the same, and we're going to move on. Just outside of top 10, we have the Rams, which you saw that last bit. They moved down a couple mainly because they got really badly beaten by the 49ers. I know it was only a 9-point loss, but if you watch the game, it was all about the 49ers. I mean, the Rams defense played okay, but their offense really played terribly. They dropped down a couple. I mean, they really they didn't look too good in this one, but we're just going to leave it with the fact that the 49ers are also a pretty good team. The Rams, they only dropped down 3, but they do drop down 3. They just outside of the top 10, but they do still have a really good offense. Darrell Henderson especially has been popping off. Like I said, he would preseason. Just thought I should flex that for a second. But this offense, they're pretty healthy. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, I'm just going to say it was, a little bit of an off week. I'm sure they'll bounce back next week. And yeah, entering the top 10, we have the Titans. I didn't click multiple times that time. Yeah, we did it. The Titans won. I think this might be the first undefeated team that we're seeing so far. And that's because they went to overtime with the Texans, who we've seen haven't been playing too well. But I am going to keep them in the top 10 mainly because they went into overtime. They won. They're 5-0. They blew out the Bills last week. They are still a really good team. Ryan Tannehill has been, Derrick Henry had an amazing game. I think he had like a 90-yard rushing touchdown, 50-yard receiving touchdown. He was a monster this week. He was absolutely crazy. And the Titans, they're looking pretty good for this season. They're 5-0. I mean, nobody really talks about it, but they have one of the best teams in the league. And, I mean, a lot of people are going to be mad that I said that, but they are first in the AFC South. They are undefeated. And, again, nobody's talking about it. It is insane. One of the 3 teams that's still undefeated. In ninth, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. It's still weird to say that after 7 weeks, but we'll get used to it eventually. The Raiders, they went out. Actually, they had a bye week, so really nothing much I can say. They move up mainly because of teams moving around. Let me see. All the teams moving down here, you're going to have a team moving up. Anyway, the Raiders had a bye week. They move up 1. Yeah, they get kind of lucky there. But anyways, I mean, I don't know what else I can say. The Raiders, they're looking like a really, really good team. They're 3-2, second in the AFC West. And I think, they beat the Chiefs. They've beaten the Saints. They're looking like a really explosive team. No one's really talking about it, how good they are. People always say, like, oh, well, look at them. They beat the Chiefs. How cool. No one's talking like, oh, yeah, they're up there. They may not be as, up. They might be in that. They might not be in that same tier as the Chiefs, but they are definitely probably really good. They're definitely really good. They could probably beat most teams in the league at this point. And again, not very many people are talking about it. It's more like an answer like, oh, yeah, and we got the Raiders who are 3-2 and beat 2 of the best teams in the league, whatever. Again, I'm not a Raiders fan, so I had my team ranked 30th. I'm not very biased. Anyways, so here we go. So starting off the top 8, we have the Bills, who only dropped down 1, and that's because they did lose, but it was to the Chiefs. And it was I think it was 26. No. Was that the 26? I keep on saying that the 49ers-Rams game was 26-17, but I actually think that it was the Bills game. So whenever I was talking about the 49ers and the Rams, I'm sorry. It wasn't 26-17. I think it was the Bills-Chiefs game. So those two games, for some reason, have just blended themselves in my head. Anyways, probably because I was kind of just watching both of them in the background. Anyway, so you got to look at this Bills team. You might be wondering why I didn't drop them down even farther, because they have had two. I mean, they did only lose to the Chiefs, but also a week before this, they got blown out by the Titans, and it's mainly because they have looked really good. They're first in the AFC East. They're only one game out of first. No, they're only one game in front of the Dolphins, though, which is kind of worrying because the Dolphins, with the way they've been playing and the fact that Tagovailoa in there, the Bills are in threat of losing this, first spot. But Josh Allen hasn't playing great. He had one. He had one interception, and that was completely his fault. He threw it up for grabs to a player who was triple covered, and it was a bad throw. It was basically right to a defender. I think if it would have hit the ground, there was a chance it would have been intentional grounding. It was so bad of a throw. But I'm not going to drop them down just because of one bad play. Every team has bad plays. But right now, they are still a really good team. That defense is amazing. If they keep on playing this badly, eventually, of course, they're not. They're going to keep on moving down. If they're 4-4 second in the AFC East in a few weeks, they will eventually start to move down. And obviously, we see this with them. They even move. I'm not going to lose hope just yet. At 7th, we have the Saints, who dropped down a couple, and they had a bye week. It had a lot to do with teams moving around above them, obviously. They had a bye week. Nothing really changed. The only reason I would change anything is if they got a player injured or if someone came back from an injury. But so far, we're not seeing that. Michael Thomas, I think he's going to be in their next game, but he was cleared to play last week whenever I made my last power ranking. So they don't really move too far. If I had made those power rankings before Michael Thomas was cleared to play, then things would be different. They would bump up. Just outside of the top 5, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They don't move really at all. I said don't move really. They just don't move. They haven't moved at all. Who do they play this week? Oh, I'm forgetting. I'm blanking. Oh, yeah, they completely demolished the Packers. I don't know how they didn't move up. I definitely think that they're a better team. Actually, I think they didn't move up because of the teams moving around them. This is one of those cases because I think the Saints were in 5th, so I don't think they're above the Saints. I now think they're above the Bills. So yeah, I think they would have moved up, but it's all the teams moving around them that kind of just leave them sitting there. But they had an amazing game. This defense is for real, and this offense. They scored 28 points in the second quarter. It was insane how much of a powerhouse the Buccaneers are right now in this league. And I think any team should be worried if they have to go up against the Buccaneers. Entering the top 5, we have the Ravens, who dropped down a couple. I had them at that 3rd place spot for so long. And the only reason they moved down really is because, you'll see they have some really good teams above them that I just think the teams above them, I think, are really just moving in the right direction. And the Ravens have kind of been flatlining for a bit, which, obviously they're top 5. That's not really a bad thing. And also, they kind of let up there at the end. They almost let the Eagles come back. If it wasn't for a failed 2-point attempt, that game probably would have gone into overtime. They did allow the Eagles to score 22 points in the 4th quarter. I'm not going to move them down too far because of that. Mainly because, they held them to 6 points for the first 3 quarters. They shut them out in the first half. It was a pretty good game there by the Ravens, but still, they disappointed me towards the end there. And all these, I think all 3 of these teams have been shown to me that they are very, very good. And in 4th, you have the Packers, and I'm scared it'll bump up again. Anyways, the Packers. They dropped down a couple because, obviously, as I was talking about with the Buccaneers completely demolished them. They were up 10-0, and then they just allowed 38 unanswered points. They shut them out in the first quarter, and that was it. It was 10-0 first quarter, and then the rest of the game, it was 38-0. Packers kind of embarrassed themselves. I'm not going to overreact from one game, but if this continues, I'm going to start reacting, and they're going to drop down some more. They did drop down from 2. They dropped down from second. If they had managed to beat the Buccaneers, they probably would have ended up in first place in the entire league. But no, they lost, and they lost by quite a lot, so they dropped down a couple. And moving into the top 3 with the bronze medal, we have the Steelers, who jump up by 10. And I'm just going to say, Steelers fans, for weeks and months, I have doubted you. And I have been called a hater. And I have constantly said just how I basically just completely trashed your team. I had them at 13th despite you being 4-0. And you guys just showed me today that I was an idiot. I have to start realizing that y'all have one of the best defenses in the league. Your offense obviously has been popping off. I had them at 13th. I root for Washington, obviously. I had no bias, but it's just like I could not get, after one of the main things I had this offseason, a lot of the things I said in the offseason that people didn't like came true. One of the things I pushed the most was the fact that I thought the Steelers are going to be terrible. And so I was like, during the season, I was like, I can't. Something's going to go wrong. But no, now they're 5-0. They're one of the 3 teams who are still undefeated. I think they're the number 1 seed in the I think the number 2 seed in the AFC right now, and I am just going to have to bump them up by a lot, especially after the completely demolishing of the Browns, who I thought were one of the best teams. And they jump up by 10, by far the biggest mover of the week. Sorry, the Steelers. Wow, y'all are good. Sorry, Steelers fans. No, you idiot. There we go. Seahawks had a bye week. They've been looking really good, obviously. They're the other undefeated team. We've already seen them. Titans, Steelers, Seahawks. Obviously, they're really good. Move up a couple, mainly because all the teams move around, and I just think they're better than the Steelers, so I put them up there. And now, I just want to talk about the Seahawks really quickly. Now, we can get to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, they beat the Bills, and the Bills are a really good team. I know I only dropped them down by 1, but they are still a very good team. Obviously, top 10, in the top 8 here. The Chiefs definitely looking. A lot of people were saying they could have a Super Bowl hangover. Not looking like it's very likely right now. The Chiefs, 5-1, number 1 in their division, and looking like a threat to any team. Any team. The Seahawks, Steelers, I don't care. Packers, I don't care who you are. You better be scared if you're going up against the Chiefs. All right, guys. Thank you guys all so much for watching this video. Remember, if you have not yet, I would highly recommend you go watch the bottom 16. Just because, I work hard on these. That's been like 4 hours making this. I know it doesn't look like it, and next week, I'm going to do it. I've mentioned it in some other videos. I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to record, like, how I do this. I am going to, go through how I make all these slides. I'm going to, videotape, not me making my notes, but I'm just going to talk about a full week's worth of how I do this. And you will see how it takes me 4 hours. I'll sit down one night. Like the last night I sat down. It takes so long because one thing, it's hard to, you try to do it. It's hard to sit down and rank all these when you know upwards of 50, 60 people are going to be watching them. That's upwards. Normally it's like 20 people, but still, it's a lot of pressure. And then you have to go through, and I know it doesn't seem like much, but to color everything, to go, this takes forever to see like how much everything moved. You have to go to the other slideshow. You have to look at where each one was. Find, I usually start at 32, and then I find where it is now, and how much it moved. Then you have to make it all white. Then you have to make it red or green, or keep it white as of the Buccaneers and stuff. And then you have to, after you've done all 32 teams with that, then you have to go through, typing these isn't too hard. Then you have to find the pictures that you haven't used before, put them in, and then you have to take the black screen, and then you have to literally do, I think it's like 37 different slides with all the black screens on them. You'll see in this next video, but I should say,